This is the Cetus by Orion Knives. Orion Knives is the company by David Cam. You first knew him as Blade Banter, but now you know him as the owner and proprietor and designer of Orion Knives. Now, before we get to this Cetus prototype, let me show you this. This is his Scorpio. It's very similar, at least in design anyway, not in terms of shape or blade design, but to the knife he's most well known for, the Solaris, his first knife. The Solaris came out, it has button lock. He kind of came out with a button lock right before the button locks burst onto the scene. I remember his Solaris being like somewhat revelatory to me because people were having a hard time with the flipper and the button lock at the same time. And his Solaris was one of the first designs that I feel really nailed it. And then this is his newest knife. Look at that beautiful clip point. I'll do a separate video on this, jimping right there. This thing is awesome. This has been one of my biggest small knife carries recently. But anyway, I'll put this aside. I'm very excited about that knife. The Cetus, this was a gift to me by David. He gave it to me, and I cherish it not only because he gave it to me, but because it's damn cool. Also, actually, while I still have this, a cool thing about Orion Knives is that, especially with the Solaris, and we can expect that with this, and then future knives, is that they are very customizable with parts that he puts out, aftermarket parts that he puts out, like pivot collars, backspacers, this beautiful anodized purple backspacer, this beautiful blue pivot collar, and different handle materials and different ways you can customize them. Solaris big time, this a little bit, and we'll be seeing more of that. And then whatever's coming next. I know that's a priority for David. Anyway, also check out the podcast. I've done 2 of them, and with David Cam, talking with him. And there's one up this week, but I realize you could be watching this at any time. So just look for the Knife Junkie podcast with David Cam and hear all about the designing process and everything else and what it's like to own a knife company like this. Okay, so this knife to me, well, let's talk about what it is to David first. This is like a big and heavy duty utility knife, 1, 2, 3 and 3/4 inches blade, a great blade length, a big downward angled but straight edge blade with a point that sits low on the design, great for utility and pull cuts and this kind of thing. So to David, this is like the ultimate EDC utility, large utility knife. To me, I saw this and I thought, oh man, this is I'm not going to use this hand because I jacked up that finger. This is a pocket ginunting. This reminds me of one of my absolute favorite Filipino short swords. Here it is. I shouldn't call it a short sword because almost all Filipino swords are this length, in the like 30-inch length. But look at this. It's I need to hit that with some flits there. It is a downward curved, sickle-shaped, very gently sickle-shaped blade. Awesome handle, meant for slashing, and you can do some wicked thrusting with it too, and flicking kind of motions, but it is really optimized for that point slashing and then the cutting you get in gathering the material within that curve. Now the curve here exists in the downward angle from the handle. There's no actual curve to the blade, but in effect you get that because of that downward angle and that tip being down low. So I saw this, and to me I thought, this is a great pocket self-defense knife because you have a very thin, look at that cross section, so cool, thin hollow ground blade that's very, very slashy and cutty and slicey and, you know, all the utility stuff, but also it's pretty slashy with that hollow grind. And then you've got that relationship here, the tip and the straight edge and the downward angle, just like a pocket ginunting. So your utility knife is my pocket sword, and vice versa. If you're carrying this as a utility knife and you ever needed to defend yourself against an aggressive dog or something, this would do do great. Or you know what? Let's say something else. Aggressive coyote. Everyone hears dog and they go, oh. Great action on this thing. You can use the fuller, which is, I think, my favorite way to deploy it. Fuller, you can use the hole. You can use the hole to slow roll it open. Oh, wait, yeah, you got to do that pinch thing to slow roll it. And then you can use that flipper tab. Flipper tab is in a place that allows it to nestle in behind that guard. You get good access to the lock bar here, something Jared Neve has gotten me to take a good look at. He's always mentioning that. And here you do get a really good access to the lock bar. You can probably tell by how it sounds, or also maybe by how it looks. It is a steel frame lock. Nicely, it's not in any way like weight relieved, but it's nicely weighted. Even with that full backspacer, it's pretty light. It's a pretty light knife. And you get this sort of bolster lock effect here. But also it is a frame lock. So, but this slab over top, kind of like on the the 640, allows you to do all of the opening and closing and manipulating with the lock without ever exerting force on the lock with your other fingers, which I like. That's what I like about bolster locks or this kind of setup. Deep carry pocket clip, it's going to be able to nestle into the slot on either side, flat screws, Orion knives. Again, this is a prototype, and so naturally some things will change. But as it stands, I really like it. I really like it. And we discussed different finishes that it's going to come in. And man, I think it's a really cool knife. And I think it can satisfy a lot of people who buy knives because they fancy themselves mall ninjas, such as myself. I'm not going to call myself that. What I mean is I do collect knives because I like weapons, and they're knives that have that in their usage are appealing to me, not because I'm a tough guy, not because I'm an assassin, but because that's just something that's interesting to me. And this satisfies that in me because it reminds me of the ginunting. But the guy down the street who works in the Sherwin-Williams and is in their warehouse all day would love this thing because of the reach, because of the blade steel, because of the downward angle, great for cutting, pulling, the straps around the crates and the boxes, cutting tape, and with the downward placed tip. Great ultimate utility knife too. So I think this is a do-all knife, and yes, it is comfortable in reverse grip if you were wondering. I think it's a do-all knife, and I think it's handsome and appealing and fun to play with. So it's got basically all the things I like in knives in flippers. Let's see. Yeah, let me I don't have anything out actually to compare it to size-wise, but oh yes I do. People are familiar with this at this point, but this is the Begleiter XL, which is a big knife at 4 inches in blade length. Let's line these up so that on that fat white line there. So not as big, but approaching it. You know, you're about a 1/4 inch off in blade length. This is like exactly, yeah, from here to here is exactly my wheelhouse. So anyway, I like this knife quite a bit. So keep your eyes peeled on Orion knives. You can go on Instagram and follow what they're doing, and you can find out when this thing drops. All right, everybody, thanks for watching.